Hi guys, welcome back to Bohs Fan TV, and today we're back with another video doing the match preview for tomorrow's game against Drogheda United at Sullivan and Lambe Park. What a couple of games it's been. I don't think they could have gone any better. Two wins in Dublin derbies, two clean sheets. It's been a great turnaround from the couple of defeats against Derry and Dundalk, and not that the way we did it, especially that the way we fought in the Pats game to have gone down to 10 men, and we felt like we were worried about the second half and worried about being up against it, but the players dug in, and we got a much deserved 3 points, and we're back up the second now when we got the chance to make a three on the spin there when we go to Drogheda tomorrow night, in a game where we're heading into it with plenty of confidence. So it's just about carrying that on now and going to Drogheda tomorrow night. They probably haven't had the season they would have expected. Their league position is starting to probably reflect their budget now. They've had 2 or 3 years of punching above their weight, and now they're starting to have a bit of an off year. They probably have a bit more firepower than they have done in recent years. Mark Doyle is scoring goals, and they do have some dangerous players going forward, but I think defensively they are starting to ship a lot more goals. We played them in Sullivan and Lambe Park back in April, and it was a fairly even game of football. We missed chances, they missed chances. Either team could have won it on the night, but we only played them fairly recently in Dalymount in May, and we put in a really good performance. We were totally on top. We should have won by more. It was only 2-1 when if it was 4 or 5-1, you probably wouldn't have complained if you were a Drogheda fan. So, yeah, that we've only beat them fairly recently, and of course we want to do the same. Bit tougher away from home, of course, but look, we're in fine form at the moment. Look, it's only 2 wins, but when you look at the manner of the 2 wins, going to Talca Park and winning very comfortably, and then to back it up with a really gutsy win against Pats, to dig in the way we did in the second half and defend and see the game out was absolutely brilliant. And we're hitting that run of form now again, of course, where things are going pretty well. And we've been here before where we go on good runs, and sometimes it only takes one result to change things, and we end up back in a position that we were only in 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, where we went to Derry and we're beaten fairly comfortably, and then lost again to Dundalk at home. So we don't want to end up back there. Of course, we want to carry on the good feeling around the place now, heading into Europe next week then, of course. So a big 3 points tomorrow night would certainly help that confidence grow even further. So heading into the team now, Paul Walters will be in goal. I thought he was really good on Friday against Pats. Made a couple of really good saves in the first half, especially one where he comes out and makes himself big and denies Kane Levy. And in the second half then he was coming out and claiming crosses and just looking really confident and assured. So yeah, he stays in goal. No way back for Casper, yeah. Then back four, it's a real shame that Hickey suspended, of course, because we had that back four back again. Mullen was back fit, and that back four, Mullen, Hickey, Todd, Power, were absolutely brilliant against Shells, and then to have gone with them again then against Pats was good, and then obviously Hickey gets his red card, but I think Kane Bird will slot in here and be relatively seamless. I think he's never let us down really, very rarely. So you could do other things as well. You could put Mullen in there maybe and play Flores at left back, or Burke, or Flores could even play centre half if needs be. But I just think Kane Byrne is the obvious choice. So I think he'll slot in for Hickey, and you'll see the same back forward in of apart from Hickey, of course, with Power, Todd and Mullen at left back. Midfield then, I think you probably stick with Flores and the Voy. Diallo was in the team for a few weeks. He's kind of come out now and hasn't really featured in the last 2 or 3 games. So yeah, I don't think there's any reason really to change the midfield. Then going further forward, Harry Vaughan starts off the left. Great news during the week there. He signed a contract until the end of the season, which is great, of course. He's really come into the team now consistently over the last month or so, and been a really important player for us and scored some big goals. So it's great to have him now till the end of the season. Look, I know some people will say, why is it not more? Look, he's probably still keeping his options open, really. He probably feels like now at this moment of time in his career, to stay with us till the end of the season is probably best. He's hitting form now, so I think he feels he's at the right club, in his career right now. But look, that could change come the end of the season. He might still have ambitions of going over to England and having a career there. Look, he's still a young player. I think he's only 22, so he's not going to commit to anything long term yet. So look, let's just hope that he'll carry on this form for us now for the rest of the season and help us, competing on all fronts in Europe with the cup and yeah, just carry on being the player he's been now for the last few weeks. So yeah, Harry Vaughan on the left, Rossi's going to be in the 10, of course. Strods, I think, will keep his place on the right. You could see Rooney come in, came on in the second half, of course, against Pats, and was asked to be, fairly defensive. He's almost playing as a wing back, and of course, we had to dig in and get the win. So but look, he done his job, and he could come in, of course. But no, I think Strods, we did miss him in those few weeks he was injured. He's a really lively player, wants to make things happen. So he's had a real good breakout year into the first team. So I'd like to see him carry on now on the right. He can play off the left, of course, as well. But I just want to see him carry on. The form he's been showing, and then up front, it's going to be Colin Whelan off the back of a goal last week. James Taylor was back in the squad on Friday, didn't come on. Whelan, he's off the back of a goal, scored in Talca Park as well. I don't think he's going to come out of the team for James Taylor. So yeah, Colin Whelan is going to stay on up front. And yeah, look, I think you're looking at pretty much the same team that we seen against Pats, apart from Pat Hickey, of course, and that should be more than enough to go up here and get the 3 points tomorrow. We're in that great run at the moment, like we spoke about, of course. Back-to-back wins in Dublin derbies, back-to-back clean sheets. Things are really good at the moment. How great would it be to carry it on now and continue the feel good factor ahead of a big week next week with the start of our European campaign. A lot of focus will be pinned on that, of course, but we still got business to do in the league now, and tomorrow is another good chance to get another 3 points on the board. And if we can do that and hope our results can go our way, Shells are playing Dundalk, and if they lose that and we win, I think we've got a 12-point gap on them, and it's quite a considerable gap for Shells to make up, especially with they're looking for a manager, and their form isn't amazing, but for us anyway, it's just about doing our job. We just need to take care of our own business. If the results can go our way, of course, that'd be great. But we just have to go up here and carry on the form that we've shown in the last couple of games, and I feel like we should be able to do that. We should have enough for Drogheda. They haven't been great this season. I think they haven't won a game in 7, and of course it can be difficult in the Sullivan and Lambe Park. It's not an easy place to go. Not the best of pitches really, in terms of it's quite tight, and the fans are on top of you, and they do make it difficult for you. But in this moment in time, the way we are at the minute, we hopefully should have enough. We don't want to end up back in the slump, especially with a big few weeks ahead. I just feel like we need to really find that bit of consistency now, looking out that can be extremely hard to come by in this league. But there's loads of teams that are inconsistent. It's not just us. It's not just a Bohs problem. It's across the board. So we can't expect perfect results every week. But look, we certainly have to keep this going now, and I think we will. I think we'll go up here and get a win. I'm gonna go with a 2-0 win. Normally I'm a bit more cautious. I normally predict something a bit closer, but I feel like we will go up here and win it reasonably comfortably. I think we will get our couple of goals, and be solid enough at the back not to concede. Defensively we are starting to look back to our best. We won't have Patrick Hickey, of course, but I still feel confident enough that from what we've seen from us defensively now for the last couple of games, that we'll be able to keep another clean sheet. So I'm going to go with a relatively comfortable win in the end, 2-0. We'll carry on the really good feeling around the place, at the moment, after 2 derby wins, and we'll be absolutely skipping down the lane then, heading into the Joseph's game, next Thursday. So that's where I'll end it. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, comment down below what you're thinking heading into the game, your score predictions, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.